It looks like we are live on day one for our model school community spotlight series with Lakeshore Central. I happen to be Mary Alice Curran, and I am so proud of what we're going to do this week. Really highlighting, spotlighting the work that's being done at Lakeshore Central. Today, like what we've tried to do for the entire week is to have each day be a conversation around commitments that I feel like Lakeshore has already made pre-COVID, but now with this emergency remote learning. For today, we're really lucky. We're going to focus in on my two favorite instructional technologists, Michael Drezik and Deanne Poland. And hopefully Jeff Barnes from the IT department is also going to be able to join in today. And then the next day will be day two, Tuesday. The conversation will be with classroom teachers. Wednesday will be with support staff. Thursday, the focus will be learning with administrators. And then on Friday, I guess they always save the best for last. Friday will be learning with students. And so Michael and Deanne, I felt like today we could really kind of set the stage pre-COVID, like the work that we've done and the work really that your teachers in your classrooms and even outside of your classrooms as an entire school community has focused in on. So do you want to just give us a little bit of a background?
Yeah, I mean, I'll jump in and just share a little bit of background. We've kind of been chipping away at our digital citizenship efforts. This is going into year 2 now, so it's been an ongoing. We wanted to make sure that we didn't have something that was one and done professional development. We wanted it to really be a partnership, working alongside one another and really meeting teachers where they were at, and then kind of growing alongside of them as they continued in their instructional tech journey. So, I mean, not knowing what would evolve out of this in the beginning when we started, to seeing what it's become now, and I feel like we are now prepared as as a district as best as we could be given the circumstances as a result of being forced into this emergency crisis remote learning situation. So we've worked with a cohort of probably 15 to 20 teachers each school year. And we have continued to grow that and working alongside them, like I said. So everyone kind of takes on a project that is unique to their needs with our support and also the support of the Digital Citizenship Institute. And we wanted to also make sure that it was a community approach as well. So not just learning within our school, but also reaching out to our community and then thinking, not only thinking locally or thinking globally, but acting locally, but reaching a wider audience around the world, like we're doing this week by kind of publishing our story out to the world and just, sharing a little bit of an inside look at how this has gone for us. So that, I don't know if that kind of paints a picture a little bit about what we've done, but pulling in, all bits and pieces of technology and how it could, be used for good in a school and beyond.
Deanne, you want to add anything?
Yeah, so I think the last couple of years has been a great experience for our students too, because they've learned not just how to use some of the technology that we've brought to them, but how to use it to change their community or to change their school or to change a problem in society. I know like last year when we did our summit, we had students who collected donations and raised money and had started on a tech platform and gone to physically having something to show for their work. So I think it was just been a very powerful experience for our students.
Well, I know that I always use Lakeshore as like my example, like just regardless, we're doing our spotlight series right now this week, but it's always been my spotlight because when anybody asks me like what's my hope, what's my dream, what's my wish for all school communities, it's exactly the work that's been like that you already made this commitment towards digital citizenship. Because generally speaking, you usually call in an expert to come and talk at students and they put on an assembly. And it's like what Drezik just said, that it's one and done. And what Lakeshore did differently pre-COVID was to make this commitment as an entire school community to learn side by side. And so instead of talking at anyone, we're learning together. And for anyone that's like joining us that doesn't know, the culmination of the work last year really was focused on a student-led event where we were learning with students. And so it was examples from, elementary all the way to high school. And as our week, I know that we'll be learning with classroom teachers. I hope a little bit of that will be highlighted, because now that we find ourselves really feeling isolated, where we're learning and working and teaching at home, the foundation that you already set in place, I feel like, I hope really highlights what all school communities, can make a commitment right now to do. So I can't see if Jeff Barnes has joined. Can you two?
Not yet, but
all right.
I'm going to just kind of piggyback off what you just said, though, and what we're honored to be known as a model school community. I'll add the disclaimer that we're not doing this perfect. We're still learning as we go. I mean, this situation that we're in has brought us brought more awareness, I guess, as to some areas that maybe we need some improvement on, and also highlighting some of the things that we're doing well. So I think that's also why, to build upon what we, our conversation, why it can't be a one and done. We are experiencing or finding out the needs that our families have, that our students have, that our parents have, that our teachers have through this. So while we had so many bright spots, I think, this will help push some conversations forward around, where we can go from here based on the situation that we find ourselves in now. So, thank you for highlighting us for the work that we've been doing. But I also excited kind of as an instructional technologist to work alongside Deanne, to work alongside you and our teachers and our admin and everybody in our school community to figure out how we can continue to get this right.
I have to just say I would call it like, you're like the spotlight, you're the model that I go back to. And I love that you just said, well, we're not always getting it right. But the fact is, the part that you're getting right is that you are willing. This is about a willingness and a disposition to be a learner before anything else. I know a lot of times in this space, we're always talking about the technology. The technology tends to lead the conversation. And really what Lakeshore is doing is leading as learners, so this isn't just digital citizenship at school, it's digital citizenship at home, at the workplace. Deanne, you want to add in how we continue to add to the community layers this year?
Yeah, so this year we wanted to make sure that we grew outside of just our school. And so we had, we spent a couple days with Brad Wade, who came in and talked about the future workforce and tech that's, out there, and kind of blew our minds. I think our students were excited by what he had to say and a little maybe freaked out sometimes. But that was awesome. And he actually presented to our community. So our students could come in at night with their families, and we had business partners come in, and they all had the opportunity to talk to our students about sort of the skills that they would need to be in all different types of businesses that we had there that night. And then it was just kind of a cool thing to see what's going on out in the world, and for them to feel like, they had a little inside view, I guess.
What I really liked about the industry networking event was that, again, that idea that everybody was a learner. So it was students learning alongside industry, but then parents came, and it was like reskilling the worker in the workplace for future technologies and, immersive technologies and just the future of work. I mean, it was really the focus on being future ready, which I always love to say as Dig Sit ready.
Yeah, I loved that our leadership kids really went out of their comfort zone to do things like calling businesses and, trying to arrange for them to come and contacting them to make sure they're, knew everything they needed to know. And they did things that I think as a high school student, I would have been like, nope, I don't think so. But they did. And then they get to see what it looks like when it all comes together. And I think they were proud of, the work that they did. So that's always nice to be a part of.
Absolutely. Well, I see that we've just had the opportunity. Jeff Barnes is joining us. How are you?
I'm good. Can you hear me?
Perfect. Perfect. We were kind of just setting the stage about the work that we've done collectively the last 2 years. And I know that the focus of this week will really be about as a spotlight series, what your district as a community is doing for emergency remote learning. And so let's just start out with the fact that I can tell you none of the work that I've done with Lakeshore would have even been possible without this team. So like the importance of instructional technologists to me, like, is the first and foremost for a school community to be like in the situation that we all find ourselves right now. I won't necessarily have that face-to-face with someone like Jeff Barnes. So you're like the unsung hero, Jeff, to make sure that all of it is working. So I feel like, honestly, if the three of you wanted to talk about, and we can transition into this, we find ourselves in this emergency. What are tell us some success stories, some challenges, some advice for other school communities as well. I think that would be a really great conversation.
Well, from a technology standpoint, two things that we see as a big success is, as of this Wednesday, we would have handed out 370 Chromebooks in a district that is not one-to-one. We have carts where kids come in and they borrow a laptop as they need them and teachers sign them out. So they are not one-to-one. So we had a policy or procedure in place for the principals or the teachers would reach out and say, hey, this kid needs a device. They're trying to do their work on a phone. In addition, we've also handed out 61 hotspots for people that don't have internet access or don't have the ability to use Spectrum or Verizon or DFT. And in addition, we've also handed out over 80 iPads for our lower K2 kids. So I think one of the better successes we've had is the fact that we've been able to reach out and get a device for everybody who's asked for one. And if a family has asked for one, we provided one for everyone in the household, so they're not fighting over the laptop. The fact that we were one of the first districts to jump on board computer-based testing helped, because it forced us to get as many Chromebooks as possible. If anything, what it's done, it's shown that going to Google was the wise decision. Google Classroom has been a lifesaver. The ability of GoGuardian and Google and Chrome to, I can still filter even though they're off site. I can still manage the device even though they're not on my network, unlike a PC or an iPad per se. So Chromebooks have become kind of like the de facto go-to for us for several years for computer-based testing, but now more so than ever, it's allowed these kids to continue doing their work. Now, granted, on Friday, they announced the end of the school year, but technically you're still working, instructional wise. So you're still seeing kids who want to get the credit and get the work done. For example, our seniors, because they want to graduate, something like that. Whereas we mobilized and came up with an ability to get devices to kids without exposing them to any more than they needed to be. So one of the things that most people don't realize is it takes about 3 days to prep devices. So we spend 5 to 6 hours starting at 7 a.m. every Monday. We clean them, disinfect them, check them for damage, turn them on, process them, get them all set, box them up. The following day, our transportation department gets a list of all the addresses that they have to go to, and then they put in a new bus route, which takes hours for the system to calculate because it has to maximize fuel efficiency. It can't go, it can't repeat itself. It's got to be a smooth situation. And then they have to clean the buses, sanitize them, clean them, prep them, gas them. And then Wednesday, we actually deliver them door to door. So the parents don't have to come out, especially when you're dealing with younger kids where the parents don't have to worry about putting them in a child seat or how do I get 4 kids into a car to drive someplace to get a device? It's going to come to me. The one exception is the territory. Any student who's on the Seneca Nation, we don't do door-to-door delivery there, but we take it to the Early Childhood Learning Center, and then they can come and pick it up. So we've been able to outreach and get technology and hotspots relatively fast into the hands of kids since I would say the first week of the shutdown. By the following week, every Wednesday, we were pumping out devices to the point where we're well over, we're getting close to almost 500 devices that we've loaned out to our kids. That I think has been a huge success.
And I'll piggyback off of what Jeff said in terms of, I know Jeff mentioned, getting a device into these kids' hands to enable them to do the work. And I think the first thing, or the power in this device or this Chromebook or the iPad or whatever it is the connection between the teacher. In the beginning, the kids, the teachers just wanted to check in on their kids. The kids wanted to see a smiling face and see their teachers. So, we recognize that, with attention to social emotional learning, that these devices could prove, be the pipeline to that connection that was needed for them to, really continue quality learning or work in this situation that really nobody could have planned for. So I look at that as another success, in terms of, we see that device as a connection to people. I know that's one of the, mindsets of the Digital Citizenship Institute is that, it's about the human on the other side of the screen. So there's a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes that the IT team is doing that, wouldn't even be possible if they weren't disinfecting, cleaning, delivering, and doing all of that, those hours and hours of work behind the scenes. Our students and our parents and our teachers sometimes don't realize that. So that's why I'm so grateful that Jeff is kind of sharing the the blueprint of what that looks like behind the scene, because it's not just flipping a switch and saying, here you go.
The other thing too, which is, I think, done a lot in terms of our thinking, is we really need to look at one-to-one. Now, one-to-one in the traditional sense means the kids take them home. I don't see we're there yet, because we see such a need for people out there that don't have internet at home. Well, without internet, the device is kind of useless. So if anything, one of the roles of technology is fix the issues now, prepare for the future. We know pretty much that a second wave is most likely coming, especially in the fall with flu season. Will there be shutdowns? Not 100% sure, but it's something we have to prep for. So I envision changing the whole scheme of what we had planned for this summer to looking at how can we get a one-to-one initiative going now, where the kids take the device out in the beginning of the day, and at the end of the day, bring it back to their cart. We're actually gonna have to label every single device with the kid's name so they know exactly who has what. And then in the event of another shutdown, just like the teachers prep take-home packages and packets, we go into the classroom, strip. The other thing you gotta people don't realize, it's not like just taking a cart of Chromebooks, pulling the Chromebook out and handing it. I got to go into the guts and strip all that stuff that I did to wire the cart to get the charger. I don't have extra chargers. So now you have to strip the cart. So what I'm thinking of is, say in October, we go to another month shutdown. Now, if we were one-to-one by then, and it's doable, I've been playing with the numbers. We got to buy some stuff, but it's doable. In addition to a packet on the kid's desk, there's a plastic bag with their device. Now there's no question that the kid has a device at home. They have access to technology. Will we have to redo the hotspots again? Yes, most likely. But at the same time, at least then they have something in their hands. And one of the things that people don't realize is, when you're here, I control everything. And I'm not trying to be, goofy or anything, but it's my network. I know the hardware, I know the software, I have all the tools at my fingertips that I can troubleshoot to the nth degree. Now you've taken every single kid and every staff member and spread them out. I don't know what their home life is like in terms of what internet they have, what router they have, what room it's in, how many people are on, what device they have, what operating system they have, what version of Internet Explorer or Chrome. It's astronomical, the amount of what you're trying to troubleshoot. And then people say, I'm having trouble connecting. I have to ask like 50 questions to figure out what's your next step. And the hardest thing for my team is, and I go along with Mike and Deanna in this, my team is famous for helping people. We like to help people. We've never turned anybody down for the most part, unless it's, no, it's not something we do, people saying, can we do Office 365? No, we're a Google district. That's when we turn people down. No, that's a different topology. But for us, we like to help people. We always like to fix the issue. Now you're asking us to try to troubleshoot something that we have no control or access to. Nothing. So in many cases, we have to resort to, you need to contact Time Warner or Spectrum or Fios or DFT. And it's frustrating to a team that is famous and known for helping people out and not having a lot of open tickets. And now they're trying to figure out, how do I remote call this parent to show them how to connect to IXL. It's yeah. So the work we're doing there, not to mention the amount of work, and I want to, you know, make sure Mike and Deanne get the kudos they deserve. A lot of teachers are suddenly embracing technology without having really embraced it before. And now their training schedule must be through the roof of trying to get people caught up. So another positive that you look at is for those who are straddling the fence and weren't sure about using technology in the classroom, that argument's over. They are now fully in the field of technology.
And to go off of that, I think the questions that our teachers will be asking about what I can do with this technology, you know, it's one thing to learn about a Flipgrid or a Buncee or a Nearpod or some of the, you know, built-in Google tools or whatever that may be, but now it gets their wheels spinning about how can I take this, you know, to another level to really empower my learners, to bring in that student voice. You know, everyone now has been on a Google Meet. You know, now, wow, I could click a Google Meet and I could bring an expert from the other side of the world into my class to teach my students about, you know, say it's the physics teacher and, you know, about something about physics that's relevant to their lives. So it'll be interesting to see where it goes from here. But as Jeff had mentioned, the struggle of trying to troubleshoot and support everybody and their needs and their questions, because everybody, you know, we know on everyone's technology journey that everyone's at a different place, and that's okay. You know, we say it's okay to be where you are. It's not necessarily okay to stay there. So just to try to take one step forward and not to overwhelm yourself, because I know when this first hit, it was a fire hose and fire hydrant of resources being thrown at you. Try this, try that, sign up for this, sign up for that. And it, you know, it's going to take a mindful effort too from the teacher side to not overwhelm the parents, to not overwhelm the students, to use the tools you're comfortable with in the classroom. You know, and if you are going to try something that you think could help you through the situation you're in, pick one thing, pick two things, and really get good at that. And as we encourage that during the school year too. And, you know, I don't know if anyone proclaims themselves as an expert. You know, we like to be known as learners, but our teachers have stepped up and they're doing amazing things. So I love that. My favorite thing is the email that says, oh my gosh, this is amazing. You know, where they're having that aha moment that this, you know, maybe force them into, and this is a horrible situation. And like Jeff mentioned, the spike, and you know, if there's a respike in October and we have to shut down for another month, nobody wants to go there, but it's thinking about how we can be prepared if we have to go there.
I was just, you know, I'm like floored by how many of the educational technology platforms out there have really stepped up their game for teachers too, to support, you know, all the remote learning and all the online things that we're doing, you know, different programs adding whiteboards and different, you know, extending their length of their videos or all those things that are happening. But it also, like at the same time, because I love that they're doing it and it is helpful, it's also more learning. Like we're constantly keeping up with all the changes and, you know, getting questions about how do you do this? I'm like, I don't know, I haven't done it yet, but I'll try, you know, and then, you know, just some of the, it's just been so extreme. Like some of the people that really have done, you know, very little with tech, you're teaching them the tool, and then you're teaching them how to teach their kids the tool. And then, you know, those kids have to be able to talk to their parents about it or get help from other people. So it's definitely been an interesting experience. And even, you know, some of the even really strong tech participants in our district, you know, they're trying stuff that they have wanted to try and just haven't had a chance before. And supporting them is, you know, sometimes a little interesting too, if you're just haven't had a chance to do some of the work with the things they're trying. But it's been fun, and our teachers just kind of keep going along with it and trying their hardest to do what they can for our students.
You know, that kind of reminds me of the fact that a lot of times districts might just have this technology plan just to make sure that we have the technology like in hand, and that there isn't enough time, like that time about, you know, teachers having an opportunity to learn and play and create. But last year when we started this journey together, that's what your district like carved out specific time for that. And when I feel like that in itself for foundation is like, even no matter whatever's going to happen in the future, if, you know, any other school community that's joining in and watching this, the importance is, of course, like the unsung heroes of all the things that have to go on behind the scenes to make sure that there's access to the technology. so we can have those really meaningful connections, whether we're in the classroom or we're learning at home, but also that like this ongoing professional development as a school community, so that everybody's always learning, willing to learn, they have time to learn. Because Dan, what you had just said about all these, it's unbelievable, these educational technology platforms that are doing webinars over this all the time. And, you know, they're reaching out and it's fantastic, but also because of where we are right now, I'm sure it's like overwhelming, like it's overload as well.
Yeah, and some of the things that we've done as a as a department on the instructional side is we've set up, the first week that this hit, we gave everybody a chance to prep, get ready, digest, connect with your students. But that following week, we wanted to be available for teachers and sharing some different ideas. So we created virtual office hours. We created some sessions where teachers could sign in and learn some new tools. And then after that, to build upon that, we then created like a once a week virtual hours. In addition to being available by email, phone call, things like that. And I know Deanne can speak to it as well. The challenges of doing this from home present another issue. And, I've got my wife here who's a teacher. She's got to be on a virtual call with her class. My first grader who is now beginning to get all of this work from his school. And just trying to balance, I guess, working from home well as a full-time employee and as a full-time parent. I know I've read so many articles about parents being exhausted or, oh, I'm so glad my kids are older now. I don't know what I would have done if they were, I got a 3-year-old here. You didn't hear it. I was muted, but opened up the door and yells, "Hey, Daddy," things like that. So navigating what this looks like, and we all, and then giving the administration and everybody really giving the grace to understand that, this is a trying situation. But to make the best of it, and everyone's doing the best they can. So it's when I see it, speaking to some of the challenges, I'm sure as we hear from the teachers and we hear from the admin and we hear from more people that join in throughout the week, that may be something that comes up. So I don't know. I just wanted to throw that in there as well in terms of the journey that we've been on as educational technologists. I know in our communities, we join Twitter chats. We have connections with our regional group of technology integrators. We meet as a region every couple of weeks, which I think is very helpful to see what our neighboring communities are doing. And then, sharing, similar to how we're talking right now, sharing our successes, sharing our struggles, and learning from one another has been very helpful.
I was going to ask that. What's your support? Because you're supporting teachers. What does your support look like? And I'm glad to hear that there is a group for instructional technologists. Is it just within New York, or is this larger than that?
It's within our Western New York region through our Erie 1 BOCES and Erie 2 BOCES. Over here, we have a consortium of some schools that come together. So we do, it's called TIF North and TIF South. We try to bring the groups together. Typically we'd meet in person and we'd have a wonderful day of learning and sharing, but we didn't want to end that. And obviously, as technology is our go-to, we knew that we'd have a way to stay connected during this time. So, but globally, there has been some opportunities globally to jump into, I jumped into the California, the Q event that they had going. So it was interesting to see a perspective of what it looks like in California, with the teachers that we connect with around the world. Just yesterday, I was on a call with, there was a teacher from Ghana, there was a teacher from Malaysia, there was a teacher from Scotland, there was a teacher from Australia, just everybody, it was interesting. Teacher from New Jersey, Chicago, to have 16 people on a call from all over the world and sharing their experiences of what this looks like globally helps give us perspective. And also, a firm understanding that we're doing some things right. So that's nice to know.
The tech coordinators for Erie 2 BOCES got together last week to talk about how we were dealing with, getting devices into the hands of kids, doing remote support when you have so many factors. The other thing that is showing us is it's also showing one of the shortfalls of this rapidly changing world of technology is there's a lot of people that have devices that can't support anything anymore, ourselves included. So we've been handing out iPads and then we find out the iPads don't support Google because you need a new operating system. But the iPads we have are 2 years old and they don't support the new operating system. So, okay, we can't use Google. Then we find out that another program suddenly stopped working because the company in January releases an update. And you're like, okay, I've now literally turned it into a browsing device that may or may not work. So it's frustrating because you want to, it's just like, and then dealing with parents too who call in or saying, hey, my son's trying to do this app on an iPad. And then we have to reach back out. What's the operating system on the iPad? Turns out that app is not supported. And now the parents are realizing that the device they have for their kids, they thought they could keep for years and years and years, won't support the changes that are necessary as people nothing against the vendors. They have to release new apps to give new features and to do security updates and to fix any known flaws or bugs. But now you're hitting a wall saying, wow, that's rough. Right now I'm looking at it's like 75% of my iPads can't run the latest greatest. And now I have to look at a significant cost to replace those. So now you're looking at, does it make sense to keep these carts? Let's reuse the carts, put them in a classroom and do one-to-one where the kid grabs their device in the morning and puts it back at the end of the day. At least then we can, and then get into a replacement cycle, where we've been doing pretty good replacement cycle wise. We've got a few labs left, but for the most part, everything across the district is new. It's a never ending fight because things change all the time. For example, I just found out my student system has to come down for a whole day because there's a new update that takes a day to install. And that just came out of the blue. So now I gotta, factor around that. There's always things that technology throws a loophole at you besides something new that kind of puts you behind. And the other thing too, our administration early on said no new programs. Yes, teachers have been doing like quizzes and different little programs that they've looked at, but no new major programs. So people were saying, hey, can we do Google, Microsoft Meets? No, we are not a 365 district. I would have to have everybody here to roll it out. I can't roll it out remotely. Not going to happen. We're a Google district. Use Google. Use Seesaw. Use IXL. Use the programs that we've traditionally used during the school year because there's a familiarity on the kids' part and on the teacher's part. No new major programs. That has been our onus from day one. And I think that's worked out pretty well because now you're not adding to the complexity of trying to rolling it out to devices that are no longer on your network.
And once we get back, however, I think we're going to be in like when I talked about what questions does this bring up, what does this look like in the future? I know we're going to have loads of teachers who are now discovering all of these new things that are going to say, hey, what does this tool do or that tool do, and how can it meet my needs? And then we're going to have to look at the student privacy with New York Ed Law 2D and the devices. One of the strengths of our district has always been that we've had a mix of devices. We've had Windows 10. We've been able to do run things like Minecraft EDU. We have iPads where we've been able to do a lot of the augmented and virtual reality. We've had Chromebooks, which there's a ease of use, and we've seen right now that the Chromebooks are coming in very handy during this situation, in addition to supporting computer-based testing. So I think it'll be interesting to see where the conversations go from here. But it's awesome to work in a district that's supportive of to asking teachers what are your needs and how can we best support that. When we bring about something, we don't get an immediate no. We get, well, let's see what we can do and let's investigate, which I think is what makes it, when you mentioned at the beginning of this episode as a model school community, I think taking that approach as a, let's learn this together and let's see what happens, and then look at some of the positive outcomes that might come of it, I think is huge. So I know we're coming on the 30-minute mark here. I'm sure we could go on and on about all of this, but super excited, Mary Alice, if you want to just kind of segue what we have upcoming for the rest of the week, unless anyone else.
Well, I wanted to get a last comment from Deanne, and then we'll wrap it up for what to expect, because I feel like this will just be an ongoing conversation where we continue to add layers each day. It's meant as a quick 30-minute conversation as a way to inspire and empower others. So, Deanne.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see how things roll out this week. It's a little crazy at my house right now. As soon as my husband left, my dog started barking, of course. So if I mute myself again, it's because of that. But it never ends. But I'm looking forward to, reaching out to some of our teachers to hear some of their stories, their success stories. I know Mike and I have had an opportunity to hear some of those stories and see some of those stories. And I just really think that, we have a lot of good going on in our district in a time where everybody is just super stressed and, concerned about mental health and well-being. So I'm excited for the whole week heading our way.
Okay, I'm just gonna ask one last, your quick, advice for anyone that's feeling overwhelmed. I don't know, what are we, week 5, week 6 of this? I don't even know, I've lost count, right? But whatever we are, where people are right now, what can they do in this emergency survival mode? Quick advice. Start with you.
Yeah, you just do one thing at a time. That's how I've been doing, because usually I have 100 things going on and it's not, you just can't do it right now. It's just one thing at a time. I have a list. I go through my list. That's it. I'm done. I'm not overwhelming myself right now.
Michael.
Yeah, I'll add, I mean, I guess the answer to this could come from, whatever role you're taking on. I would say that if you're a parent, reach out to your child's teacher, try to make that connection, just check in, ask them how they're doing. Are you getting too many notifications? The communication is key. So if you are feeling overwhelmed, letting somebody know. I mean, I know I've helped some parents tone down the notifications just so that a device wasn't dinging all of the time. Little things like that. And like Dan said, trying to keep a routine is somewhat tricky in these times, but that may certainly help. But to keep fresh, I think just checking in with your students, and I know we talked about not bringing on new programs to overwhelm, but if you have a time and a space created because of this to learn something professionally, maybe you jump on a webinar if you have the time for it and you have the capacity to do that. Maybe you just you buy a Kindle version of some type of book that you've wanted to read related to ed tech or tech integration or learning or assessment or feedback or whatever it might be. Just to maybe carve out a little space for you as a learner, if you feel like you could take that on. I mean, not to overwhelm yourself, but I know that that's also been, one of the neat experiences of this for myself is being able to, continue to learn and grow. So I would encourage our teachers to try to do the same, if they can.
Probably surprising coming from a technology director, but don't be afraid to take a break from technology. Walk away. So students don't have to be in front of a screen 24/7. Staff doesn't have to be in front of the screen 24/7. There needs to be time to detox. Even though the students aren't here, I'm still dealing with issues. So at one point I had a voice gateway go down at one building and I had a whole network closet go down in another building. All my video cameras went down. We have construction going on. So I spent about 20 hours on the phone, on my computer, on with BOCES, trying to fix all these different issues remotely, talking to my staff. And by the next day, my eyes were shot. They were just bloodshot because I had spent so much time in front of a screen. And that my wife and I said, why don't we just go for a walk at Chestnut Ridge before you crack that computer open again? It's okay to walk away. Get your kids outside, draw on the sidewalk with some chalk, I don't want to say deadlines aren't important, but getting outside and getting physical activity and getting some sunlight and just taking time away from a device, I think will also help people's anxiety and stress, because you get to that, what they call soft addictions. I got to check my email. I got to make sure my email's clean. It's okay. It's okay to walk away and do something. Take your family for a walk around the block, see how your neighbors are doing, that kind of stuff. That I think is worth just as much as everything else that's been said.
I think that's a great way to end, because honestly, when I think about digital citizenship and the importance of balance, and I'm hoping that the big takeaway from all of this that we've all collectively experienced is that importance of balance, and having that opportunity, whether it's going to be the walk, drawing on with chalk on the sidewalk, baking a cake, starting a garden, finding an interest, that to me, when this is all over, what is it that you individually did to learn something new? And if that was the focus, then we've done a great thing. And by using technology to make those connections, that we still feel connected. That's probably just great advice for everyone, is to make sure that you feel like you still are very much connected and part of a community. So again, Lakeshore Central has always been my spotlight. I am really happy that We'll continue to be able to spotlight you all week. Tomorrow, we're going to be talking with classroom teachers, a conversation, learning with classroom teachers. Wednesday is going to be learning with support staff. Thursday is learning with administrators. And then again, they save the best for last, learning with students on Friday. So thank you, the three of you, Jeff, Michael, and Deanne, because you really are the foundation for making everything possible for school communities. And I thank you from the bottom of my heart. And anybody that's been joining, thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much for hosting this. This is really nice. Thanks for, giving us the shout out and opportunity to share our story.
Oh, I see somebody's raising a hand. So I guess if anybody has any questions, do you see that?
Oh yeah, look at that. I can't see it on my end, but
Amy's raising a hand. Amy, if you can hear us.
yeah, thanks for tuning in.
Yourself and ask a question. Oh, let me see. It's in the Q&A. Oh, I think it was just meant to wave at us. A virtual, got a virtual wave. Oh, but Amy, if you did want to unmute, certainly feel free, like you can join in
But
and
yeah,
give
no,
a round of applause to our unsung heroes in school communities. Woo! Doing the wave as we do at Fenway Park.
I know Amy's one of our amazing math teachers at the high school, and I know some of our teachers are tuning in. I know some teachers from other districts might be tuning in, so super excited to hear what they have to share throughout the week. So it is, we talk about a school community. There's so many moving parts behind the scenes. So having a chance to kind of share the ups and downs and celebrate as well is important. So
I think, I didn't realize that it was Teacher Appreciation Week when we picked this week, but the reason why we're doing this, I was literally supposed to be there this week doing professional development. And I didn't want to add one more thing that was going to stress out any of your teachers, but like, what could you do to add value? And I love the fact that this happens to be a wonderful way for teacher appreciation to appreciate Spotlight Lakeshore Central. So we really hope that you'll continue. Anybody that's joining in today, invite others to come and learn with Lakeshore Central all week long. So thank you.